My name is Leo Smith. Before November 2025, my existence was a meticulously coded routine, debugging scripts, fortifying digital perimeters, navigating the predictable hum of corporate servers. I was a cybersecurity engineer, sharp, precise, and utterly grounded in logic. My world was defined by data, not sensationalism. That's why, when I first saw the headline back in July 2025, I scoffed. Quote, possibly hostile alien threat detected in unknown interstellar object. A shocking new study claims. Fox News. Classic clickbait, right? Another desperate attempt to grab eyeballs with recycled UFO conspiracies. But something about the specificity of it. 24 kilometers, bigger than Manhattan, the chillingly precise November 2025 arrival lodged itself in my mind. A tiny, irritating burr. Over the next few weeks, I found myself inexplicably drawn back to it during my lunch breaks, watching the news clips, the oversimposed gray aliens on the TV screen, the unnerving ticker text, crypto-terrestrials hiding in plain view. It became a morbid fascination, a background hum in my otherwise predictable, orderly life. I even started following fringe online communities, just out of a detached curiosity, collecting fragments of chatter about Project Chimera or November protocols. Little did I know, this seemingly innocent digital rabbit hole was about to swallow my entire reality, starting with a whisper that would soon become a scream. My day job involved patching obscure vulnerabilities in secure government networks managed by my corporation. It was often tedious, intricate work, usually stemming from sloppy code or human error. But late one October night, just weeks before the dreaded November 2025 date, I stumbled upon something different. Deep within a seemingly benign diagnostic log from a classified orbital satellite network, a network that, officially, was only used for weather pattern analysis, I found anomalous data streams. They were faint, almost imperceptible, encrypted with a proprietary military cipher I'd never encountered, but unnervingly consistent. Too consistent for random noise, too structured for a system malfunction. It wasn't human error. It was a digital echo, a residue, a faint imprint of something immense. My instincts screamed. This was the object, the 24-kilometer behemoth. My heart began to pound, a frantic drum against my ribs. Every line of my professional ethic demanded I report this anomaly, follow protocol, hand it over to my superiors. But a primal fear, fueled by the absurd conspiracy theories I'd been browsing, held me back. What if the consortium from those silly online forums wasn't so silly? What if this was a government cover-up, active right now, right here? I began to peel back layers of digital obfuscation, diving deeper than any authorized access should allow. I bypassed protocols, navigated silent digital tripwires, my fingers flying across the keyboard, driven by a growing, frantic need to know the truth. Consequences be damned. The raw data I uncovered wasn't just simple telemetry. It contained fragmented, highly compressed audio files. A low, rhythmic hum, interwoven with strange, almost melodic clicks. It sounded alive, and it was broadcasting directly from the object, heading for Earth.
The raw audio files, the cryptic telemetry data, they were no longer vague anomalies. They were irrefutable. This wasn't some distant astronomical phenomenon, a rogue comet, or a new pulsar. This was a vast, intelligently controlled object, meticulously decelerating, subtly course-correcting. It was a ship, a colossal alien vessel making its final, silent approach. I began feeding the raw data into my own personal supercomputer, a Frankenstein's monster of repurposed servers and custom-built cooling systems, frantically attempting to reconstruct its precise trajectory, its current velocity, and its true, terrifying form. The results, when they finally resolved, sent a cold shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. It was massive, far, far larger than any terrestrial vessel, easily dwarfing our largest aircraft carriers. And its projected arrival date was November 14, 2025, 2 weeks away. That sensational Fox News headline from months ago wasn't just clickbait or a baseless conspiracy. It was a desperate, perhaps sanctioned leak of a truth too horrifying for direct public consumption. I couldn't sleep. The low, resonant hum from the alien audio files echoed constantly in my head, a rhythmic thrum that felt like a secondary heartbeat, an alien heartbeat. I zoomed in on the reconstructed visuals, a dark, seamless triangular prism, its perfectly sharp edges seeming to cut the very fabric of the void itself. There were no visible thrusters, no exhaust plumes, no telltale signs of propulsion, just pure, silent, inexorable momentum. It was cloaked almost perfectly, a shadow in plain sight, confirming the chilling text I'd seen on that news ticker, crypto-terrestrials hiding in plain view. I spent hours dissecting every pixel, every sound wave, searching for an answer, a vulnerability, anything. My apartment, once a haven, now felt like a claustrophobic bunker, utterly cut off from a world blissfully unaware of the cosmic dagger hurtling towards it. The air outside felt different, heavier, charged with an unspoken dread. The stars, once a source of wonder, now seemed to watch, silent and indifferent, as humanity stood on the precipice of its own oblivion. My initial, frantic attempts to anonymously leak the data were futile. Every secure drop point I used, every connection I made to underground media was instantly identified and shut down. It was like shouting into a void, or worse, into a highly sensitive, omniscient microphone. The consortium wasn't just a shadowy government agency. It was an invisible, omnipresent network, already aware of the alien threat, and terrifyingly, already in control of the global narrative. My fear swiftly shifted from the approaching alien craft to the cold, calculating human power structures that seemed to know everything, predict my every move, and ruthlessly suppress any inconvenient truth. I began to understand the chilling implications of that crypto-terrestrials hidden in plain view text from the news channel. This wasn't just about an incoming ship. It was about a long-standing, deep-seated secret woven into the very fabric of human history. I stopped searching for new data on the incoming ship and started scouring for suppressed data, for the patterns of deception. I delved into the deepest corners of the dark web, into encrypted archives of whistleblowers, discredited scientists, and forgotten military projects. I looked for connections, for recurring anomalies that went back decades. I found fragmentary reports of anomalous energy readings in remote desert areas. Arizona came up repeatedly, unsettlingly. Strange disappearances of scientists, technological leaps that seemed to have no human origin. It was a terrifying jigsaw puzzle of global proportions. Was the incoming ship simply revealing what was already here? A deeper, more ancient presence? Were the grays on the TV screen not just a common stereotype, but a deliberate misdirection, a distraction from a more subtle, pervasive truth? The deeper I went, the more the lines blurred between official denials and unsettling truths. I was now a target, not just of the aliens, but of the very system I once helped protect, a system determined to maintain its absolute control over information, no matter the cost.
As November 14th drew closer, my life ceased to be anything but a sleepless, agonizing vigil. The pervasive hum from the alien ship, though not physically present in my apartment, vibrated relentlessly in my very bones, a constant, low-frequency reminder of the impending arrival. Every waking moment was spent in a desperate, futile attempt to find a way to warn people, to expose the truth before it was too late. I explored every digital avenue, every secure network, only to find them all instantly, silently slammed shut. I even considered going public, physically, printing out my data, shouting it from the rooftops. But the paralyzing fear of being disappeared, of becoming another voiceless footnote in the annals of silenced conspiracy theorists, was a palpable, suffocating force. My phone was a dead weight in my hand. My internet connection was unstable, seemingly monitored, every keystroke potentially tracked. I was trapped in my own meticulously built digital fortress, yet it felt like the most suffocating cage imaginable. The tension outside my window was almost as thick as my paranoia. People went about their daily lives, oblivious, maddeningly normal. Laughing children, busy commuters, the endless chatter of mundane existence. The sheer normalcy of it all was a form of psychological torture. I watched news reports, scanned social media, looking for any hint, any official change in narrative, any sign that the world was preparing. But nothing. Just the usual political squabbles, celebrity gossip, economic reports. It was a terrifying dichotomy, the mundane, ignorant world outside, utterly unaware, and my world inside, collapsing under the weight of an approaching cosmic doom. I started to question my own sanity. Was I imagining this? Was the lack of widespread public alarm a sign of my own delusion, my descent into madness? But then, a faint, almost imperceptible flicker on a secure dark web forum I'd been monitoring for months. A single, cryptic message from an anonymous source, confirming, simply, the object was indeed decelerating, its final phase. They knew. Others knew. But we were all powerless, just passengers on a runaway train heading for an unknown destination. November 14th dawned. A Tuesday. Unblemished, clear sky, deceptively serene. I watched it from my apartment window, a self-imposed prisoner, waiting. Mid-morning. No alarms, no emergency broadcasts, just the usual mundane symphony of a city going about its day. Distant traffic, the faint murmur of human voices. I felt a wave of crushing, bitter despair. Had I been wrong? Had my paranoia finally consumed me, painting shadows where there were none? Then, the static began, not on my encrypted feeds, but on mainstream channels. A sudden jarring crackle on every radio, every TV, every public screen. It lasted only a second, a fleeting, almost imperceptible global shudder. Then, silence. A terrifying, unnatural silence descended. The city, moments before bustling with life, went utterly, profoundly still. Car engines died, distant sirens faded into nothingness. The world, billions of souls collectively held its breath, sensing the shift, even if they didn't know why. And then, it appeared. Not with a fiery descent, not with sonic booms, not with a triumphant roar, but with a silent, terrifying unveiling. High above the city, shrouded in what had seemed like an innocuous cloud bank, the triangular prism simply was. It emerged from the atmosphere, colossal beyond belief, its obsidian black surface absorbing the sunlight, a gaping void against the bright blue sky. No sound, no discernible movement, no visible propulsion, just pure, terrifying, unyielding presence. The possibly hostile had not just arrived, it had declared its arrival. My hands, trembling uncontrollably, instinctively grabbed my phone, raising it to capture the impossible, but the screen was just static, a futile gray wash. It was happening. The nightmare, the conspiracy, the impossible truth, it was all real, and the world, my world, was utterly, horribly unprepared. The silence of humanity was finally broken by a collective gasp of pure, primal terror. The immediate aftermath of its appearance was a cacophony of human terror. Screams erupted from the streets, car alarms wailed, distant sirens blared, but all of it quickly faded, muffled as if absorbed by the sheer oppressive presence of the ship. But the ship remained silent, unmoving, a vast, dark statement hanging over humanity, a perfectly executed declaration without a single word. No attack, no lasers, no obvious destruction, just presence. And then a sound, or rather, a sensation. A low, guttural pulse began to emanate from the ship, not heard with ears, but felt deep in the chest, a resonant vibration that seemed to penetrate bone, brick, and concrete. It was the same hum from the satellite data, amplified a millionfold, now a planetary beat. It wasn't just physical, it was something more. It was a language. As the hum intensified, subtle yet profound changes began to ripple through the city, responding to its rhythm. Streetlights flickered, not due to power loss, but as if being subtly manipulated, dancing to an unseen cadence. Giant screens on buildings, once displaying advertisements, now started to show fractal patterns, impossibly complex and mesmerizing, glowing with an internal alien light. Then, text. Not English, not any known human language, but glyphs, patterns that seem to shift and reconfigure themselves directly within the mind, a chilling, universal message. It was a single, stark ultimatum: integration or extinction. The message wasn't hostile in a conventional, aggressive sense. It was cold, logical, absolute. And it implied that the crypto-terrestrials were not merely hiding in plain sight. They were already here, deep within Earth, working on this integration for a long, long time, preparing humanity for its inevitable destiny. The ship was merely the final step, the declaration of intent, the switch that would begin the process of absorption. The world, already teetering on the brink, fractured under the weight of the alien ultimatum. Governments, initially paralyzed by the sheer audacity of the ship's presence and its silent, incomprehensible message, issued frantic, often contradictory orders. Military forces scrambled, their advanced weaponry, missiles, fighter jets, laser defenses proving utterly useless against the silent, unyielding presence of the ship. Their projectiles either dissipated into nothingness upon contact with an invisible energy barrier, or simply turned, arcing harmlessly away into the upper atmosphere. Chaos reigned on the streets as panic turned to desperation, then to a strange, almost resigned acceptance among the bewildered populace. The global infrastructure, already under strain from the ship's pervasive hum, began to unravel under the subtle, systematic influence of the alien frequency. Communication systems failed entirely, financial markets crashed into oblivion, transport ground to a complete halt. The human world was being systematically dismantled, not by force, but by a quiet, inexorable reprogramming of its very foundations. But humans, stubborn creatures that we are, did not simply surrender. Small, desperate pockets of resistance emerged, not military, but technological. Discredited hackers, rogue engineers, desperate scientists, marginalized physicists, all those who had been overlooked or actively suppressed by the very consortium that had known and hidden the truth for decades. I was one of them. Driven by a desperate, burning need to fight back, to preserve what little remained of humanity's free will, I used my knowledge of the alien signals, the resonance patterns, to seek out others, creating an encrypted, hidden network. We called ourselves the Echoes, whispers of defiance in the storm of assimilation. Our goal? To find a vulnerability, a backdoor in the alien code, a way to fight back against the silent, overwhelming integration. We believed the consortium had to know more, that their long-standing cover-up meant they possessed insights, perhaps even a hidden countermeasure they were simply too arrogant or compromised to use. We were racing against time, against extinction, against a silently unfolding apocalypse where individuality itself was the target. Our desperate hope for humanity rested on a single audacious theory. Lena, a brilliant xenolinguist from the Echoes network, had spent weeks analyzing the alien pulse, that all-pervasive hum. She theorized that the crypto-terrestrial's vast, ancient network, which permeated Earth's mantle, might have a vulnerability, a primal frequency, a disharmonious resonance that, if precisely overloaded, could shatter the assimilation signal emanating from the ship above. It was a long shot, a desperate gamble, but it was our only shot. The target? One of their central subterranean hubs, a place Lena, through her arcane data diving, believed to be the primary nexus of their global network, deep beneath the Earth's crust. It was likely protected by unseen defenses, ancient and formidable. I knew the risks. This wasn't just another hack. It was a physical infiltration into a living alien system. But the thought of humanity losing its individuality, becoming mere echoes in a collective consciousness, was far more terrifying than any physical danger. I volunteered to lead the small, specialized team. We were a handful of desperate, weary souls. Lena, with her raw data and unshakable conviction. A former military demolitions expert named Kyle, whose grim practicality was a grim comfort. And a silent, almost spectral former government agent known only as Wraith, whose knowledge of classified tunnels and old bunkers proved invaluable. Our descent began through a forgotten service tunnel beneath a decommissioned subway station, a portal into the Earth's shadowed depths. The air grew heavy, metallic, tinged with that familiar, unnerving alien hum. We navigated crumbling infrastructure, bypassing automated defenses that resonated with the very alien frequency we sought to disrupt. These weren't just security systems. They were parts of the crypto-terrestrial network, attempting to subtly integrate us, to turn our minds into part of their collective even before we reached the core. I used my hacking skills, my intimate knowledge of their signal to create disruptive countermeasures, crude but effective. My hands, still faintly glowing with the residual azure energy from the obelisk, seemed to intuit the alien logic, allowing me to overload their attempts to mentally assimilate us, pushing back against the encroaching silence in our minds. It was a terrifying, mind-bending journey, a desperate race against the ultimate loss of self, deeper into a world that wasn't ours. Lena's device, a crude but brilliant amalgamation of human and reverse-engineered alien tech, hummed, then shrieked. It emitted a discordant frequency, a sonic blade that ripped through the core resonance of the vast crystal network. The immense, living collective pulsed violently, struggling, recoiling from the sudden, agonizing disharmony. The energy surge that followed was cataclysmic. It wasn't an explosion of fire and shrapnel, but a complete, silent systemic shutdown, a cosmic unplugging of a vast, ancient consciousness. The obelisk at the center of the cavern, and by extension the one still hovering over the city above, went dark. The low, all-pervasive hum stopped. The world, both above and below, was plunged into an eerie, profound silence, broken only by the settling dust, the dripping water in the cavern, and the ragged breaths of the survivors. Major Sharma's remaining forces, who had tracked us and burst into the cavern in a final, desperate attempt to reclaim the obelisk, stood motionless. They were defeated, not by our weapons, but by the overwhelming, incomprehensible power of the beings they sought to control, now rendered inert. Their faces, previously contorted in rage, were now masks of utter disbelief and confusion. Lena collapsed, exhausted but triumphant, her device smoking faintly. Kale and Wraith stood guard, their weapons lowered, their eyes wide with the magnitude of what had just transpired. I stood, barely, my body racked with pain, the Ageress alien energy receding from my hands, leaving behind a profound emptiness. The direct connection was severed. Humanity, for now, was saved from assimilation. But at what cost? Site Zero, our entry point, was now a dead, echoing tomb. The consortium's dreams of wielding alien power had dissolved into dust. Lena and I, along with Kale and Wraith, vanished from any known radar, ghosts in the system, living under new identities. The world slowly began to rebuild, bewildered by the sudden, inexplicable cessation of the alien influence, oblivious to the true nature of the averted catastrophe. But I was forever changed. The alien touch, though broken, left indelible echoes. I could still perceive subtle energy fields, feel the faint hum of the crypto-terrestrial network, a constant reminder of their enduring presence beneath the surface. My mind, expanded by cosmic knowledge, now understood the terrifying fragility of individuality, the vastness of the universe, and the chilling truth that we are never truly alone. The fight for humanity's freedom was won, but the awareness of its true cosmic place, its vulnerability, was a burden I would carry forever. I became a solitary observer, a quiet guardian, watching the stars not just as points of light, but as pathways to endless, terrifying possibilities. The beacon was silent, but the universe had awakened, and so had I.